So earlier in the week, John was listening to the Sunday podcast. It's a podcast called the Sunday Podcast, hosted by Ollie Lum and Matt Sadin. And the guest was Josh Kerr.
This episode was from November 11th, by the way.
Somehow this has stayed silent for a month. This shows you how unpopular our sport is, because this isn't going to stay silent. This clip will get out there. And we're going to play some of the audio here because I don't want to be accused of hyperbole. I don't want to be accused of the media's bringing things out of proportion. I think this is so good for the sport. We need rivalries. We need a little trash talk. We need a little hype, anticipation, etc. What's the best part about going to the casino? It's when you're in the parking lot. What's the best point about the 1500? The build up. Well, not really. I think it's actually the race. That's what's so great about this 1500. But one of the hosts asked Josh about unpaced races versus paced races. Hey, it's the question that I had the Diamond League organizers ask Jakob Ingebrigtsen this summer when he was in Europe. And Jakob turned ahead, got a little bit, would you say miffed, John? Or I don't know, miss the right word. But hey, who asked that question? He said, because the thing had struck a nerve. And this host basically asked the same question of Josh. I'll play the whole clip. Here it is.
Do you wish there was more races which were unpaced? Do you think Jakob would lose more if there was more races, if he did more races that were unpaced? Or do you quite like the fact that, you know what, he has to, he runs a pacemakers all year and in the one race he doesn't, he's he's not as strong, he's easy to beat, I guess.
Yeah, I do think people will start realizing that a little bit now, but I don't think he will because the ego is pretty high on this one. But I do, he was pacemaked in 2021 for his Olympic gold medal by Chariot.
Exactly.
So it's like, if you really look at it, he doesn't win a lot of non-paced races. I would love for him to be listening to this.
Wow. The ego is pretty high on this one. So if you really look at it, he doesn't win a lot of non-paced races. I would love for him to be listening to this. Well, he's listening to it now. We know Jakob's listened to the show before. I guarantee he sees this now on social media. Hi, Jakob. Hi, Elizabeth. Huge fan. Hope you guys had a great wedding. A little disappointed I didn't get an invite. Can you invite me to the post-2024 Olympic celebration? I promise I will be there. But this was amazing. Like, you don't hear people say this. This is viewed as trash talk, but what he's saying is right. We have to say it's accurate, right, John? I mean, I know he's won the European championships that are non-paced over and over again, but of the major, he lost World Indoors in 2022. He lost World Outdoors in 2022, and he lost World Outdoors in 2023. He's actually never won a non-paced global final if you consider the 2021 Olympic race to basically be unofficially paced by Timothy Cheruiyot.
I mean, Robert, it is true, but at the same time, if you're throwing out the European races, which I don't think is totally fair to do, the European Championships, there aren't very many non-paced races on the circuit. Like, the ones Josh Kerr is pointing out that he didn't win are the hardest races to win in the World Championship final. So if that's the knock on him, you're holding him to a very high bar, I suppose.
What's crazy, folks, is Josh was just getting started. Listen to this clip. This is what came after that.
And so that was a big part of our training as well. Was like, I think there was a question asked to him earlier on in the season of like, are you worried about the World Championship not having a pacer and all this stuff? And I think his answer was, when the pacer drops out, I'm the pacemaker. And I was like, oh, you have no idea. Like, you've won so many races, you've ran fantastic all season, that you're just on this, you must be surrounded by so many yes men that you don't realize that you have weaknesses. And I think that was part of his downfall, is like, if he doesn't realize that he's got some real major weaknesses, then he will not win the 1500 meter gold medal next year. And, I'm okay with that.
Wow. You have no idea. You're surrounded by so many yes men. If he doesn't realize that he's got some real major weakness, then he will not win the 1500 meter gold medal next year. What do we think of this? I mean, it's just such a bold statement, but I love it. But the thing is it accurate, guys? Doesn't Jakob know what his weakness is? His weakness is he's not the fastest guy at the 400. He knows that, and that's why he sets the pace from the front in the 1500. That's why he's the rabbit. That's why he's proud of it. Like, he doesn't do that in the 5000. In the 5000, he comes from behind. So I love the talk, but I'm not sure Josh doesn't realize. I mean, I think Jakob knows his weakness. Now, to me, what his weakness is, he's not giving credit to how much it helps to be paced for 2 laps during the Diamond League circuit. What did sub 159.40 teach us? Pacing matters. You're saving a lot of ground. John Kellogg thinks it's worth a second a lap. So he's benefiting 2 seconds in the average Diamond League when he gets that pacer for the start, and then he takes over. He doesn't have it in the Olympics. He doesn't have it in Worlds. But, Weldon, what do you think of this?
The yes man comment? Man, that's a dig, man. That was a little. Our sport needs more of that, because the rest of it, I think, is sort of more tactical. Is Jakob aware that he's really vulnerable in these races? I don't even know if really vulnerable is the word, but he hasn't won a lot of them. He hasn't, as John points out, though, he hasn't done a lot of them. But his success rate is much higher in the rabbited races. It's almost 100% now. Like, right? When's the last time you lost a fully fledged rabbited race?
2021, right? Would have been the lead up to the Olympics.
So it's been a while. But in the unrabbited races, it is a different ball game. The Olympics, there's more pressure. It's a different ball game. I don't think the problem is having too many yes men around, but maybe you need someone to say, hey, this is what we have to solve. How are we going to do it? Because the question was asked by, I think you, Robert, virtually at one of the Diamond Leagues this year. You know, like, hey, are you worried about not having rabbits? And he brushed it off. Running is an individual sport, but I'm going to compare it to boxing a bit. I mean, I guess boxing's mano a mano, but like, you can overestimate your abilities. To be the best, you have to believe you're the best. Like, I say that a lot. Robert doesn't like it, but Jakob Ingebrigtsen, to get to the level he does, has to be extremely confident. But at some point, you do need to analyze your weaknesses and try to improve them, attack them. So it's why we're talking about the 1,500 meters once again. We could talk about the 1,500 meters every podcast.
But John, didn't he do that? I mean, we saw it throughout the Diamond League circuit in 2022. Jakob seemed to have something extra in that final 150. The guys would pull up on him 150 and then 120 to go. He would just drop the hammer, and his close was better than ever before. And I would have liked to have seen him run 1/800 to see what he could do. You know, if he puts up a decent PB like 145, maybe we think, okay, he's not so vulnerable. But if he does that, maybe that hurts him for the 5,000. But I think he did get better. And in Jakob's defense, he's going to say, hey, 2 of the last 3 global finals, I was sick. I had COVID and World Indoors in 2022. And then I had a little illness in 2023. Now, the crazy thing is we got to wait till 2024 to see if that's reality or not. Now, I mean, yeah, but he knows, I think he does know what his weakness is, but he doesn't want to, what is he supposed to do? Broadcast it to everybody? Like, it's probably the same weakness of Yard Nuguse. If they jog around for 2 laps and it turns into an 800, he and Yard Nuguse are probably not winning this thing. But then again, John, I was talking to you about this off air. Matthew Centro isn't exactly the fastest guy in the field, and he won a 350, 1500 Olympic final.
Well, so many fascinating things about this, because one of them is like, does Jakob change things up after getting beat in the last 2 World Championship finals? Does he change his race strategy and say, hey, maybe this isn't the way to win a global final? But then you also have to look at his own skill set. And it's like, maybe that is the way for him to win it, because you can try to improve his weaknesses. If I were Jakob Ingebrigtsen, I probably would try to get in one. I'd go to World Indoors this year, and you don't want to just try out something new in a global final, but at the same time, the Olympics is the big one, right? So if you're going to test out some sort of different championship final, you maybe try it out in the World Indoor final and see how it works, and that really prepares you for Paris. But he can try to run these different tactics, and maybe the reason he doesn't is because he's not as good at them as someone like Josh Kerr or Jake Whiteman, because he might not have the exact change of gear. And we did see him change gears, like you said, on the circuit very well. Like, I don't think he was quite at his best in Budapest, but it could be that Jakob has looked at this and thought, all right, I'm not like I can't change gears or can't do the championship race in exact style as Josh Kerr. So how, or as someone like that, or as Whiteman, or someone big kicker X. So the way I'm going to win the championship final is by making it a really fast race and attacking from the front. So this whole thing is fascinating. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds in 2024.
Exactly. Totally fascinating. But the more, when I first heard Kerr's comments, I'm like, yeah, he's right to some extent. But the more I think about it, I think, yes, Jakob's got a big ego, but I love that about it. Like, he thinks he's the best. As he said before about doing a sub 2-hour marathon.
If some people can do something, I believe I can do better.
The guy has no limits, but in his own mind, which is good. But I think he is aware of his weaknesses, John, because remember how he was talking to us about, he was very upset about the 2022 loss at Worlds because he felt like he ran stupid and he was fighting, was it Manengoy or Chariot or somebody for the lead, and wasting energy. So he was aware of, I wasted energy that did not help me. I shouldn't have done that. Whereas when he lost this year, he didn't, it burned him that he lost, and he wants that 1,500 more than anything, but he was like, I'm sick. There's nothing I can do about it.
No, he thought he ran a great race. He thought he ran the race, the best race he was capable of on the night. What frustrated him the most was he didn't feel that was reflective of where he was at fitness-wise because he was sick.
And people thought he disrespected, Kerr, when in reality, the first thing he said to us was, hats off to Josh, but, I'm a little bit sick. It sucks to be sick. So it's going to be amazing. There was actually, we'll link to the whole podcast in the show notes. There was some more after this. I'm not going to play the whole clip, but Kerr says, the 1,500 is more popular than the 5K. The 5K is almost an afterthought for him, which is, Kerr said, then admitted, which is crazy to say, but I think that's kind of true. Like, he wants that 1,500 more than anything.
Jakob was asked at pre-classic, like, how'd you grade your season? And he won every race apart from the 1,500 Worlds. He was just like, kind of viewed it as incomplete. And it was like, well, that was the one reason why he didn't win the race he wanted to win the most. So I thought this whole interview was great. This great episode of the Sunday podcast, great comments from Josh Kerr. I really appreciated hearing his insight into his, rivalry with Jakob and a lot of other aspects. So it made me that much more excited for the track season that's coming up.
And then he concluded this segment by saying, but yeah, I think if he wants to try and really compete to win next year in the 1,500, he's going to have to change some things up. I don't think he has to change. I don't think he needs to change things up. I think he just needs to get better and healthy. Now, what I would change actually is this. I would like, if I was him, to practice it once on the Diamond League circuit, no rabbits, just to get some ease. But then I thought about that. I said this last year, like, what happens if he practices with no rabbits on the Diamond League circuit and he just gets crushed? Well, that doesn't help your confidence.
Then at least you're like, okay, maybe I need to rethink things. But I don't think he's going to get crushed because he's tried it the last 2 global finals and he's still gotten second both times.
Now, maybe if you let it go really slow, as John Keller was saying about 2016, when it's the 350 race, the guys behind you are wasting so much nervous energy and they're jostling around in the pack. But
you can't. Wait. That's not realistic though. You can't let it go slow when Abel Kipsang's in the race. He'll just take it. Like, Jakob can't just get at the front and decide to run 65s. All right. Well, really fascinating discussion there. All right. Couple more things before we go. Do you guys realize Jared Nuguse is racing Matthew Centrowitz and Hobbs Kessler this weekend?